probably wouldn't. Attempt it. Well, you were using it for a while.
Yeah, I tried.
So this is a really cool tool. Like you're going to be, once Lindsay shows you what you can do with it, you guys are going to be kind of blown away. So my name is Jill. I'm a Chicago title. I am one of a team of people that kind of handle this account. Lindsay is our digital marketing and digital director of
You're almost there.
Digital marketing strategies. I never can get her title right. She basically runs our marketing department. She teaches classes around the valley for us as a team, and she teaches here once a month, here and once a month in Chandler. So thank you guys for being here. I will turn it over to you.
Great. All right. Well, as Jill mentioned, this tool it's pretty awesome and it's free. So I like the free. I want, if you guys have a laptop, feel free to kind of follow along with this. Or if not, as Kelly mentioned, this is going to be recorded. So if you miss anything throughout this, please refer back to her for the recording. It will be nice to see those steps again. With this, though, the tool is to get there. If you are using your computers, it is google.com/earth/studio. I would highly encourage you to open this up in Google Chrome since it is a Google product. I have had many people have issues if they are trying to use it on a different web browser. So use Google Chrome as your web browser, again, because it's a Google product. Now, when you are here for the first time and you get here, you're going to want to hit this blue Try Earth Studio. When you hit Try Earth Studio, it's going to, not that page, this page. You're going to have to sign up for the very first time. So the first time you get there, it's going to have you input your information and you'll answer why that you are using Google Earth Studio. I've never ever seen anybody not get approved to use this, but I think that Google just wants to, tracking purposes, like be able to see what people are using this for. So you'll put in your information, and like I said, right here it says currently granted on a case-by-case basis. I've never seen anyone not get approved, so you'll fill this out, and pretty quickly you'll be able to get approval to use this tool. So that's kind of my speech into this, is make sure that you're getting set up correctly on Google Earth Studio. Once you're there, and once you've gotten approval, you'll get a notification to your email address. Once you've gotten approval, you will be able to use the tool. Now, what is the tool? So Google Earth Studio, essentially it is taking all of Google Earth's satellite imagery, as well as, if you've ever seen the Google car that comes around, right, and takes photos of the roads, it's taking all of the imagery that Google has already, and it's compiling that to create videos for you guys. Did you have a question, Kurt? Did you have a question?
No, I was apologizing for my thing ringing.
Oh, you're fine. No worries.
You might have to speak up a little. He's retired.
I'll use my cheerleader voice.
The reality is I came to this because I have to figure out how to integrate it into my travel blog videos.
That's awesome. Honestly.
And then everybody will follow.
I actually think that's a great idea. But yeah, so essentially we're already using Google's footage that they already have stored, and you're able to use that to create your own videos. However, when you publish this, and we'll go through it, it will include a watermark. It's going to include a Google Earth Studio watermark because it's Google's footage. And make sure that you are always keeping that. You're not using any sort of video editing software to remove that watermark. We need to make sure we're giving the credit to Google. All right, so when I get here, and my very first step, right, I'm going to do Try Earth Studio. This is what will open up kind of on your default every time you are beginning here. Now, your eyes tend to draw to this green button right here. And I can actually, I might zoom in just a little so you can see this a little bit better. your eyes kind of draw into, all right, let's start a blank project at the green. However, when you start a blank project, it's going to be a little bit harder because you're going to have to pinpoint longitude and latitude to be able to describe to Google, this is the view that I want. And that's a lot. So right here on the right, there's a drop down button. And the drop down button has something called quick starts. Quick starts are templates. So when you first get here, remember to hit the down arrow and hit quick starts because those are pre-made templates ready for you. So all you have to do is type in your address. So here are a couple options of what templates you can choose from. So the first is zoom to. Notice how it's going to zoom in to whichever pinpoint that you've entered in on Google Maps. That's a zoom. Orbit, exactly what it says. It's orbiting around whatever that pinpoint is. The next is point to point. So if you want to say, here is the property address, and this is how far the school is, this is how far, the mall is, all these different points, you can show that in point to point. Spiral, kind of similar to orbit, but it comes in from a different angle. And then the last one here is fly to and then orbit. So it's kind of combining two of those templates already where you fly to the specific destination and then you're going to orbit around to see what is surrounding the property. So I'm going to select this one for right now and then we will hit start. Alright, so your first step in here is typing in your address. If I were to have hit that blank project button without quick starts, it doesn't give me this option. So that's why I say always do the templates because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. When I come in here and I'm going to put in an address, does anyone have a property in kind of a cooler location that we'd like to try? Yeah?
But I have in Nevada.
I would say do something local. Do you have something local that's maybe nearby? Golf course? Yeah.
3157 East Eliana Lane.
Is that how you, is it like this?
Eliana Lane, yes, Gilbert, exactly.
Okay. Alright, so here it's identifying where the location is. So we're good there. The next step is, alright, all of these buttons, this is determining how high are we, how close are we orbiting around, are we coming in from the north, south, east, west. So that's what this is right here. Again, if you didn't hit quick starts and you just did blank project, you would have to type all of this in manually. So, ending altitude, do we want to be a little bit higher? Do we want to be a little bit closer? The closest you can get is 432 meters. I have noticed when you're hovering right around 600 is, and I'll show you, there's going to be a pinpoint that we're going to layer on top of this that's going to say, here's the property, it's going to have a little pin drop. If you go less than 600 meters, that pin goes away. If you stay at 600 meters or more, you will see that pin drop the entire time. So I'm going to keep it at 600 for now. Target altitude, right? So the camera is facing downward right now. Do we want it facing higher? Do we want it facing lower? So I usually put this one as low as we can. Your orbit radius. Do we want to capture more of the area surrounding, or do we want to capture closer in as it's orbiting, right? So when it starts to orbit, how far in do we want to be? And then lastly, your approach angle. Right now it's coming in from the north, but you can change which direction it's coming from. So all of these in the quick starts make your life a whole lot easier. Next, you're going to pick your time. Now, right now at 25 seconds, that's pretty fast for orbiting. It's going to probably make people a little bit dizzy if you were going a little too fast on this. So I would slow it down. I I would slow it down, probably cut it in half. Because if you're going to maybe layer on a voiceover, if you're going to have a voiceover, you want to give yourself enough time to talk about what is surrounding, right? So it looks like there's a little lake over here. Maybe I want to talk about that. So yeah, slower or faster. I mean, if you're orbiting, I definitely recommend slower. And so those were our 3 steps into quick starts. If you did blank project without quick starts, this would be the first screen you see. So you would have to come in here and enter in, you can see over here, this is our longitude and latitude and our altitude. Those are all the things I just changed with those, whatever they're called. That's what I just changed right here. And it entered in all of this information. What you see right here, 1500. There's 1500 frames to this 50-second video. I put it at 50 seconds, right? And so within 50 seconds, it is doing 1500 frames. So what that is 1500 images that it's compiling together to create a video. So between here and here, there's 150 images, and that's all it's doing. It's a time lapse, right? So if you've ever set up your phone for a time lapse, it's just the shutter continues to go off to capture image, 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 and then it compiles them all together. That's exactly what this is here. So it's coming in to the property, and then right when it hits this next keyframe, that's when it slows down and it begins to orbit. And again, this is where you can kind of talk about what is surrounding. You can talk a little bit more about the property. Reminder, if you're like, okay, can I get even closer to the property? Yes, you can get closer. Just keep in mind, whenever I layer on that pin drop, the pin drop goes away when you're closer than 600 meters. So if I were to zoom in even more, the pin drop would go away. Does everything sound good so far? Okay. This target, this little bullseye that you see here in the middle, that is for your eyes only. When you publish that, that goes away. So if you want to give the audience a better understanding of what we're looking at, like if you're like, okay, are we looking at this house or this house? Which helm are we looking at? I would suggest layering on a pin drop, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. But just remember, this bullseye, it's just for your eyes only right now. It's not going to get published in the ends. All right, so let's go through some of the settings up here. Now, file, I mean, these functions right here are going to be very similar to any Microsoft or any product you use. Similar save features. I want to go into the view. So if you were to go into the view at the top, here's a couple options you have. We have one view here, or if we select 2, it's allowing me to see kind of what the video looks like from different angles. Now this little red shape right here, this is the camera. And this box is what the camera is able to capture. So as I move this, you can see it comes in, and then when we hit this spot, it's going to start to orbit. And again, that red is the camera, and then that box is showing what the orbit radius is. So that's just, again, for your eyes only, if you kind of want to see what it looks like, what you've selected. It shows you from the north, south, east, west, shows you all of the different angles of what the camera is capturing. But I personally, I think that the camera itself is, I like this view the best. Now, as I'm hovering out here, notice how it names some of the surrounding subdivisions, right? So, Seville, Santan, Agrotopia, we've got a park over here. You can see the airport over on the east. So it's highlighting what's surrounding. So maybe that's a talking point. Where obviously Agrotopia right now has a ton of new restaurants and shops, and a lot is going on over there. You can talk about that. You could talk about new parks. There's been a ton of new parks that have opened up over here. And then you could talk about how close that the Gateway East Mesa Airport is as well. And you can even talk about the mountains over here. So it's capturing all of this and it's labeling it as well. If I were to come into map style, and if I were to do clean, all of that goes away. So if I hit clean map style, I don't get any of the details. If I were to do exploration, it's just going to highlight landmarks. So whatever Google has deemed to be a landmark, in this case, the airport and this Oasis Park, that's a landmark per Google. If I were to do everything, you'll get a little more detail. And as I come in, even more detail, right? We've got Fry's, we've got Bash's, Costco, golf.
Oh, what a great tool.
Right. So it really helps draw a picture of what the lifestyle is surrounding the property itself. I'm really glad you picked this listing because I grew up less than a mile from here, so I know it very well. But yeah, so you have information all about what is surrounding when you choose map style everything. So keep that in mind. Exploration is just landmarks. Clean is nothing. Now, we were showing this tool to another group previously, and she, having everything on there is really helpful to say, here's the grocery store, here's what's surrounding. But in her situation, she was like, the area surrounding the property is not good. It is not a great area, and I don't want to point out some of the things that are surrounding. So in her case, she decided exploration was better suited, right? So you can kind of pick and choose depending on where you're at. All right, so I kind of jumped over to map style, but let's go back up. Preview quality, this is just your eyes only. This is not how it publishes. This is just right now, how are you previewing it? So if you're on higher speed, good internet, then you could probably stand having high resolution, but if you're at Starbucks and you're using a shared Wi-Fi, then maybe you want to do a lower preview quality. Again, this is just while you're in the editing tools, not how it publishes. Guides, right? So this is going to show you just different, here I'm going to turn off the multi-view. And we're just going to do camera. So your guides is just kind of, you've got the rule of thirds in here. It's just for your eyes only. All of these are for your eyes only. Now, I'm going to skip over some of those and we're going to jump into overlays. So remember when I said we can overlay a pin drop onto the map so that way people know, okay, this is where the property is at. Now to do this, there's a lot of steps involved. So many steps that I wrote them all out for you guys. And you will get that. So as long as you signed in, and I think most of you did sign in on that sheet, Jill will send this out after the fact. But it's not difficult. It's just click here, click here, click here. It's a lot of clicks, 13 as you can see. And so I wrote that all out for you so that way you have it. But essentially, let me show you, when you go into Google Maps, so you open it up in here, and then over on the left, you go to Saved, and then you go into Maps. You can try to write this down, but you don't have to follow along with this because it's all written down for you. And then you're creating a brand new map for yourself. Create a map. And so now we're in here.
Did you pull out of
Google Earth Studio?
So
Yes.
you're
Now
out of
I'm in Google Maps.
Okay, sorry.
Good question. So I am no longer in Google Earth Studio. I'm now just in Google Maps. So in here, lots of clicks, and I'm going to type in, remind me that address again for the Gilbert property.
3157 East Eliana Lane.
Perfect. All right. So here is the map. I'm going to add it. And now that it's added as a saved map, a couple options I have within here. Let me zoom in so you guys can see this better. All right. So this is a little, if you can't see the icon, it's a little paint can right here. If I were to click on that paint can, I can customize what the pin drop looks like. So let's say we want to use our red, my home group color, right? So we can use red, and this is kind of a better red. But you could use red, and then let's say I want to make it a house, because that's what it's a house. Or let's say I'm layering on an additional pin drop for the hiking, right? Hiking trail. I can change this to the little hiker right here. There's lots and lots of icons.
Can you put text on it, like someone's name?
No, so you can't do text. You can only do icons and colors. So that's your customization here. So if I wanted, if I wanted to overlay multiple pin drops, I can do as many as I want. And I could say, okay, here's the golf course, here's the hiking trail, here is our property itself. So you might want to utilize some of the variety of icons within here to show the differences. But I do like that you can customize the colors and brand it to yourself right here. All right, so let's go back to house. We like this. And I'm gonna name it just so I can remember for future uses. Oops. Alright, and I will save it. And this is my eyes only. Now, when that's all said and done, I am going to export it as KML KMZ. So what is that? Sounds like it would be a radio station, but what it is that's just the file extension, right? So we have PDFs, we have JPEG, we have all these different file extensions. This is for an overlay of a pin drop on a map, KML, KMZ. So I'm going to download it as KML, download. And all of these, let's go back here. Oops. All of those steps are saved here, right? So everything I just showed you is in here.
12, okay.
Yep. So now we just downloaded that. I'm going to pop back over to here. And now we're going to go to overlays. And now I'm going to import that KML file that I just downloaded. So import KML. Here it is. It's in my downloads. And there it just imported the pin drop. Remember, the target, the little target icon, your eyes only, not going to publish with it. The pin drop that we overlaid, that will publish, right? So it is pin dropping where the property is at, and it's going to show the audience this is the home. Remember when I said if I go in closer than 600 meters, then the pin drop will hide. Well, I guess it hid right there at 600 as well. It kind of depends on how close in you get, but it will kind of go away if you get too close. There it is again. It pops back up. But that is showing me that we are looking at this second home from Higley. Any questions on that overlay? Yeah.
Okay. So you went to map to find the location and everything, then you went back, imported in the studio.
Correct, exactly. So exactly that. I went into Google Maps in a different tab. I created the KML file, and that's all those steps I wrote down is how to create that KML file. I did that, and then I downloaded it to my downloads folder. I popped back into Google Earth Studio, and then I went to overlays, and I imported it. I imported that saved KML file I just created. And if I wanted to keep layering on more, right? I want to do the golf course, I want to do the grocery store, I would repeat those same steps over and over and just upload a new pin drop each time that would tell me where it's at.
So you won't, You can only do one pin drop at a time.
One at a time, yeah. But you could go into Google Maps and then just do all your saved maps in here at once. And then once you go into Google Earth Studio, I from there would import. And that's probably the fastest way to go.
So, but the overlays work on maps only, on Google Maps.
Yeah. Yep. So essentially, yeah, it's what it's doing right now is it notices the latitude and longitude right here. So 33 point whatever, and then minus 111 for the latitude and longitude coordinates. So that's what it's tracking. And then when we pop back over to Google Earth Studio, it's finding the same latitude and longitude, which is right here. That's what we entered into the quick starts. It's finding that same latitude and longitude, and it's putting a pin drop right where that spot is. That's essentially what the tool is doing.
When you're in Google Map, it has a camera icon next to that.
Let's see, let's go back.
Is that?
Oops. Right here?
Yeah.
Let's see. So it looks like, oh, you can upload your own image now. So if I wanted to use my logo, or if I wanted to use my face, right? You could.
Great, don't do that.
Yeah. So now
Still
you're able
off.
to upload your own
I'll
image
use
if one of
this.
those icons doesn't suit. I guess I don't remember who asked about the text. If you could put text in there instead,
Maybe.
you could put text and a little icon,
Oh, there's that.
right?
Yeah.
And then upload your own.
So the reason I'm asking that is
Yeah.
I'm seeing if you were going to create something like this, send it to a client that's from out of town,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got 4 houses you're going to see on Saturday, you can
Oh.
actually put the text of each
Yeah.
house. Say this is how far you are from the golf course, or this
Yeah.
is how.
That's a good idea. I mean, I think,
Kind of
right,
gives you a neighborhood feel before you
Yeah.
even get there. Kind of.
you'd have to maybe layer that on and then like another
Can you-
video editing software.
Can you do multiple overlays, like with different properties
Yep.
on one map?
So you would do it with the point to point. So you know how at the quick starts at the
Right.
beginning, I did fly to and orbit? You would want to select point to point, so that way you're able to put in multiple addresses.
Okay.
Yep.
So that you use other video software to do a fly to and then point to point as a second video.
Yeah, you
Merge.
could combine them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea.
Okay, now that's for sure.
So basically, I think what he was getting at is, so right now, let's go back. Our video is fly to and orbit, right? But if we also wanted to, on top of that, we also wanted to do, now let's look at golf course to home in a point-to-point video. You could take fly to and orbit video and point-to-point video and put them together in one longer video showing different angles, kind of.
But not on this.
Not on this. In a different video editing software that you're already using. Just put the two together. That's taking it another step
Go
further.
ahead.
Okay.
You're retarded
I
now,
have
so
a
yeah.
question. If you want to add the overlays, like say you want to say where the grocery store is,
Uh-huh.
can you make it so it pops up later in this little video, or does it start from the very beginning?
Good question. Let's see. Show overlays panel. I wonder if in here it would allow me to put in timing. Doesn't look like it does, but I like your thought of like, okay, let's kind of have this come up later as I'm speaking to it, right? And in here, it doesn't look like the overlay has, well, no, any like timing of when it populates. Show file and drive, download, keep real capacity. I don't think so. I don't think right now it does.
What's good about this, you guys, is instead of hiring someone to do a drone,
For the neighborhood?
Yeah.
yes, you just do a couple of these and pop them in there.
Exactly.
So I've seen agents use this and enter it into MLS, right, along with their photos. Now, I've talked this at a few different brokerages. different brokers have different rules surrounding that. So I would definitely inquire with your broker what their rules are with that.
With using photos?
Yeah.
With using Google Image Video Google Earth Studio Video in their MLS listing. Different brokers I've seen
Yeah,
have
because
different.
I'm thinking why hire a drone photographer when you could just do this and do a
Well,
screenshot?
I think the problem is the branding part.
Yeah.
So like if you put in the MLS, it has to be unbranded. So if you were to do something, you'd have to do, like, if you were gonna do something for your YouTube, you'd want it to be branded, but if you were gonna do something that's gonna be on MLS, it has to be an unbranded to you version.
Right.
So, can they get back to you from that Google brand?
No, because when you publish it, the only thing that carries with it is the Google watermark. So it's not your branding,
It's the Google,
right?
it doesn't,
it's Google's,
they can't
right?
find
Right.
Craig Harlan, which is really what MLS is worried about.
Correct.
Right, that's what I said, you just have to make sure it's not a branded version.
Because sometimes when we've been talking about like, all right, once we download it, maybe we want to layer this on after your voiceover, like whatever you're kind of adding to it after you download it. Sometimes I've seen people put on like their
Their name or
content,
something,
yeah,
yeah.
right. So obviously, if you're doing that, you wouldn't want to put that. But then,
And what you can do though is do a screenshot of that however you want and add them in as photos. So if
Yes.
you don't do a video and you don't have anybody doing any video, you can do a screenshot on your computer. You need to do it small enough so that it's the right size basically, but you could do multiple screenshots to add in with your photo so when people click through it, like you could do Fashion Square, I'm just, because that's where I live,
Yeah.
Fashion Square Mall, and then the house is, across the canal on Chaparral or something away from it. You can do a screenshot of that area, screenshot of the other. Then you could do a video of, how far from Fashion Square Mall is. There's a lot of things you can do. And there's a simple video editing software called CapCut. It's free. It's very good and powerful.
yeah,
And it's very easy to use on your phone and on your computer.
And you can do text overlay on that.
yeah. CapCut's. If I'm doing like a quick, easy edit, I'm always doing CapCut as my choice.
What's it called?
CapCut.
CapCut.
Yeah.
So like cap on your head and then cut.
Yeah, it's a very simple software. It's free. It's basically a commonality with the TikTok company.
Yeah, it was originally kind of for your short form vertical videos, but they've gotten, they just keep adding more and more features to it. And I think it's fairly user friendly.
Yeah, it's the easiest one I've seen.
Yeah. Okay, so if I were actually doing this right now, I might want to change, let's see, in here, I might actually want to change like when it starts orbiting. So this little diamond right here, I can move it and say I don't want it to orbit too soon because I have more to talk about as it's coming down, right? Maybe I don't want it to orbit right away. So I'm taking this little keyframe and I'm bringing it out. So it's going to take more time on the zoom to, less time on the orbit. So that's what I just changed right there by moving these around. So it's a little slower as it comes in. I'm able to talk more about what's surrounding the property. And because I moved those, it starts to orbit a little bit later. So that might be an edit that I do thereafter, but most of the time you don't need to do all that much to it because you already set that up at the quick starts at the beginning. You already put in the altitude, you put in the speed, so you're not going to have too much to edit after the fact. That is one thing that sometimes I will edit later.
And you can do that on the quick start ones. You can go in and get this on afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I want to personalize it, if I want to put this property, single property website, how can I add it to the video?
So what we were just suggesting, CapCut is one video editing software that you could use if you have a Mac, like QuickTime Player or iMovie. You can layer on that as well. Yeah. Do you have a Mac computer?
No,
No.
not
Try.
yet.
Yeah, that's okay. Try using CapCut first. See if that gives you enough of what you need, and then if not, we can solution other things.
And there's a million videos on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
How to
lots of
use
good tutorials.
So you're talking about voiceover, like, you can stretch out more. When you do voiceover, does it put the words on the screen?
You can, if you, like if I were to pop this into Instagram right now, let's say I've downloaded it, I saved it, now I want to just put it into Instagram. You could throw it into Instagram and you could do a voiceover, and then if you say I want to add captions too, it will caption whatever your voiceover was. So yeah, a lot of video editing
So
software
where's the
does
answer
that.
to your text?
Yeah, right.
Now you can say, here's one, if you're doing a voiceover, you can say, this is 3126
Yeah.
Giuliano, and then check this out, down the street is, and.
Yeah, it will add the closed caption for you. Mm-hmm.
But how do you get it from your computer to your CapCut on your phone?
I'll show you. Okay, so now we've
Well, the problem is.
We've
that's an
put this
HP
together,
computer, right?
and I talked about this for 30 minutes, but truly this should be like a 5-minute at
There is
most
that.
process, right? It really shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to do all that. So now I'm going to render it.
Real
Yep.
quick. So you said, so what if you want to put it in Instagram in a video format? Can you change the formatting here, or it's going to crop it?
No, you
Okay.
would have to do it on another
Okay.
software piece, yeah. All right, so here it is. This is what we see over here on the left. The quality you see right here resembles the 1920 by 1080. That is fairly good, right? If I were to make this smaller, 720, you can see it's a little bit more pixelated. It's not as crisp and clear as it was previously. Your quality and the dimensions that you put in here is going to determine how long it takes to download. So the higher the quality, of course, it's going to take a little bit longer to download. If I were to put it at 1920 by 1080, that's the default. If I were to put it at that, I would guess this would take me somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes to download. It does take like a decent, if you have good resolution, it does take a decent amount of time. And just so you know, you can't close out of this window and then go into Excel and do something else. It won't continue to render. So you want to make sure that you're leaving this up as it's rendering, okay?
Google found a way to capture us.
Image
They already
sequence.
captured it.
So at the very top, I'll kind of work down this. So we'll name it, right? So I'll say test video at my home group. Right now it defaults to be an MP4, so that's your video file. That is going to be the easiest option. I would definitely suggest keeping it as a video. When it renders, it's going to render to the cloud, right? So this is going to download to Google's cloud. It stays in Google's cloud for 14 days. So let's say you render this and you don't download it after 14 days. It's expired, it's gone, you have to start over again. So if you're rendering it to Google's cloud, download it within 14 days or else it goes away, okay? Your alternative option here is you're gonna have, remember I told you the little number at the very top, 1,500.
1,500 images.
You want 1,500 images. You can download all 1,500 images, and you can put all 1,500
With the cards and
images.
do this.
Yeah, right. It's like those animation flip books where you know it goes through. There's like QuickTime Player. If you have QuickTime Player, they have an option where you can put 1,500 images together and morph it into a video. But let's skip that step and just do the video. It gives us the option to do video here, so let's just do video here. I think that is by far the easier option, but know that this is an option. You could take all 1,500 images, downloaded all 1,500 images to your computer, and you can morph them together into a video.
How did you get to this place?
So I hit render. So on the last page I was at,
Okay.
there's a render button at the top, right?
Okay, got it.
And then render, yeah. So we did the name. We want to save it as a video, frames, right? Maybe I don't need all 1,500. Maybe I'll be good at 1,400, and we'll call it a day. But you get to choose, are we using that full 50 seconds that I put in? So if so, 1,500 frames. The resolution. So here is where you're going to decide where that little Google watermark is going to go. Do I want it top center? Do I want it bottom right? You just choose where you find that it fits best for your video.
So you just need to be careful if you do overlay your logo that you don't overlay it over where Google is.
Correct. And also, like if you were to do captions, if you were to do an overlay with captions, a voiceover with caption overlay, if you were to do that as well, making sure that wherever the captions go aren't going to mix with that.
And if you want to crop it to a vertical format, you better put it in the middle.
Yes. What he said. Yeah, if you are cropping any bit of this, probably your right or left justification could potentially crop that out depending on how you're doing that. Okay, and then also like your text alignment. Do you want justified to the left? Do you want it centered? That is just for the attribution. I'm gonna skip down to map style. So remember we said, do we want clean? Do we want exploration? Or do we want everything, right? You get to choose. Your texture quality, I don't really see a whole much of a difference in there. And this is actually a newer feature now where if you were to use this for VR, it just kind of formats it better if someone was watching this video through a VR headset. Alright, so I'm gonna make this really small right now, just for sake of time. And then we submit it. Alright, so now it's rendering in the cloud, it's putting it all together, and you're like, okay, where do I find this? Where is it at? I'm gonna come up to animation and cloud renders. So cloud renders is right in here. So remember I said if it's more than 14 days it expires. So all of these right in here, longer than 14 days ago, they're expired, they're gone. This one is within 14 days, and so I have the ability to come in here and download it if I want to download it to my computer. And then right now, obviously this is queued up. It's starting to render this. When it's done, you'll see it looks just like this where that green bar has filled up. So if I were downloading it, it downloads to my computer. Now here is a test one that I did a couple weeks ago. I'll show you what it looks like. I did make the quality on this one not very good, so keep that in mind. Alright, so yeah, I lowered the quality so you can obviously see it's not as crisp and clear on this particular example, but overlaid this particular property. See kind of how when you do that everything, it can be a lot. It just depends on what's surrounding it, right? So for this property in Gilbert, not as many of all of these placed directly right there, so it might read a little bit cleaner. But for hers, there's things all over the place. And it gets a little bit much on here. So that's why maybe the exploration option might be a little bit better of a map style. But this is great because, right, you get to see, all right, here's McDowell Mountains. You could talk about how close the mountains are, the canal's right there, maybe, you know, they're interested in fishing in the canal. So that is kind of what it looks like as a finished downloaded file. I would recommend sticking at that default 1920 by, what was that, 1080 pixels. I think that was a better resolution. Oh, alright, see? So because I did a much lower quality on that video, it's already done. I download it, it opens. And here's what this would look like. Alright, so this one's a little bit better with the having the everything on it, right? Because there's not a ton of things right there. So it doesn't look as overwhelming. But it gives you a good sense of the property without having to hire a drone photographer, videographer.
It's just saving me $40 on every listing. I look at it.
Yeah. And again, as I mentioned, so this, you know, I went through this almost an hour, just under an hour. It really would only take you maybe 5 minutes to do this, right?
Except the download.
Yeah, exactly. The download process itself will probably take you a little bit longer, yes. Any questions?
So you mentioned the Google Street person. Can you get that low? You just lose your pinpoint, or do you just have to do that as a separate insert if you wanted to show the front of the house to like a prospect?
So the closest you can get, let's go back here. The closest that you can get, you can't get super close to the front of the house. The closest it will let me get, let's just put it, is, starting altitude, whoa. Oh, because it's not orbiting, that's why, we have to go back to the orbit one. Let's try Earth Studio, quick starts. I think it's like 400 meters is the closest we can get when we orbit. Let's see. End altitude closest 429. 429 is the closest that I can get. But notice that.
That's not gonna work for
No, hold on. Let me show you. Let me show you in here. So when I'm getting at 429 and your target altitude is 429, see, the target altitude would have to be lower than 429 for it to see downward. Right now, the smallest I can get on that target altitude is 429. However, oh, it's so fast. However, I can change this in here. Let's see if I can get to
200.
Yeah, okay, we'll do 200. Let's see.
So exciting.
Will it show?
Crash. No. Fireball.
Right? So 200 is a bit close, I think.
So what you guys got to remember too is you're looking down on crap. See that roof in the left corner there?
Yeah.
That's the thing that, like, when I've done drone videos for my clients, some of them complain, you know, hey, look at all this crap around it. So you don't necessarily want to go down too low.
Yeah.
You know, they see the roofs and everything, and that's again the advantage of being able to edit it. You can go in and you could clip it up a little bit and take out some of the bad parts, or you can do multiple different things if you wanted to.
I do think, like, as I'm trying to kind of manually play around with some of this, I can get lower than the 429 if I really want to, but I
Might not
think
look good.
it might not look, yeah. It might
You
not
guys, this manual thing, it's the most complicated thing
Yeah.
I've ever worked with, but manually, you should see some of the videos people are making out of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going, in like a plane and coming down, coming up, turning
Yeah,
around,
they're
right?
good.
It's
Yeah.
super amazing.
It is pretty cool. I'm not that savvy.
Yeah, I try, so that's the problem. I didn't ever try the quick start. I'm in there
Oh.
trying to change the latitude, longitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me like you do a couple of quick starts and merge them together.
Yeah.
You could.
You know, so you
Absolutely.
know, like your multiple properties, you fly into the area,
Yeah.
then you do a couple of point to points, and
Yeah.
can you fly out of the area? Can you back up?
Yeah, I would.
No, you have to.
You just
buy
put
a
another
house
point in from point to point, pick an address, and then you can do it.
Yeah. That's one way.
Can't get out, you cannot leave.
Yeah, you're stuck.
So now you guys took the class, now you're gonna have to learn how to use CapCut.
Right? Yeah, we got this part down. If anything, I mean, this is a great thing to show to your sellers and or buyers, right? Even if you're not necessarily publishing this on YouTube or social media or anything, that's okay. But to have this and say, hey seller, hey buyer, look at what I was able to put together for you. I think that's a huge win in itself for 5 minutes of your time for free.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming, everyone. I hope you learned.
So on the side, because I'm like all but retired, so
Yeah.
Johnny likes
He's
to
bragging.
So you can no longer do YouTube videos on a paid channel, and even if you're not getting paid on YouTube and you're just not even monetized, it's still YouTube, and the national park can find you. So you could do this for your fly into see the area because it's Google.
Yeah.
It's Google. No.
Well, so you were having some issues. With
Yeah,
this
so what happened
2
is
minutes of-
I got flagged for putting this on my YouTube channel because I was a monetized channel.
Huh.
So they flagged me and I got demonetized. They were paying me $500 a month for my YouTube channel.
Wow.
So you got to be careful with it. So what I do is if I'm going to use this footage, I demonetize that video.
Because essentially Google was paying him for things that they're...
That I'm creating.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just got to be careful because, I mean, it just depends on what level you're going to use it, but everything that you're going to do on YouTube and stuff, I mean, they're running their own show. You know what I mean? So you just have to be careful. So just to be safe, if you use it, just demonetize the video.
Well, particularly since Google owns YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay you for my
Yeah, right. For our footage.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I hope you guys learned a few things and feel confident to
you.
use that, so thank you. Yeah. Thank you guys.
She's teaching it again tomorrow in Chandler.
Yeah. Do you want to do this all over again?
You guys really just play with it. Like try multiple
sure.
different settings and then just make a note of your preferred settings and it just forget everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Make it as simple as it possibly could be.
Yeah, because that thing you can modify it so many ways.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how we get into our phone for CapCut.
Yeah, so, okay, good. I didn't answer that question. Thank you for reminding me. So essentially, I just downloaded